Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this week's Substack Live at the Sustainable Media Center. My name is Emma Lemke, and I serve as the Director of Gen Z Advocacy for SMC. And I'm so honored to be joined in conversation today with SMC's Gen Z board member, Haley Colborn. A little bit more about Haley. Haley is a Gen Z entrepreneur and book lover. After graduating from Princeton University, where she studied English, Haley founded Hot Literati, a community of hot, cool, and well-read people. Now, Hot Literati has expanded into a global literary movement. So, for today's chat, there's a lot that I want to unpack and dive into, especially as it relates to your work cultivating relationships with fellow book lovers online and offline. But before we dive deeper in, let's allow listeners to kind of get to know you a little bit beyond the introductory remarks. So, start by walking listeners through how you became an entrepreneur, a community builder, and just a book lover, and who you are today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Very excited to chat. So I was born and raised in Kansas, and I think Kansas has such a culture of entrepreneurship. I took my first entrepreneurship class when I was like 14 or 15, and just learned a lot. I think Kansas has this really great attitude of like humility, but also very much like pull yourself up by your bootstraps, like make do with what you have, and you can like be really resourceful. So, entrepreneurship is has just been like a big part of my life since high school, I think. And so when I was growing up, I did pageants, and I think pageants are really interesting as an introduction to thinking about like personal development and self-presentation and stuff like that. Um, and when I was 17, so in 2018, I won Miss Teen USA, which sort of pushed me into being like a micro influencer overnight. I won in Shreveport, Louisiana, and I remember watching my Instagram account go from like maybe something like 7,000 followers to like 12,000 followers within like 3 or 4 hours. And so then that same year, I went to Princeton to start my undergraduate degree. And I think Miss Universe at the time, like any company ever in the world, was still understanding and navigating like the new digital landscape and the tools of social media. So I was posting like some lifestyle content when I was in college. I had a blog, but I like didn't really I was so shy that I would like put stuff up and then I would like delete it all. I did the same thing with like YouTube and stuff like that. But then my senior year was when TikTok was starting to become like a big thing. And I have always nurtured a really deep love of literature. When my older brother went off to kindergarten, he's 2 years older than me. My mother taught me how to read at home and would take me to the library every week. So, books and literature have always been a part of my life when I just have nothing else to do, when I'm lonely. Like, I just love to read. And I feel like even in college, I like wanted to find people that loved to read as much as I did. So I just started talking about some of the things I was reading online on a new like TikTok account. And in like January of 2022, I had one video go super viral. I think like maybe like 6 million views. And the account went from like something to 60,000 followers overnight again. And then I just kept iterating and trying different things. And I think in the next year, like that, the fall of 2022, I started an online book club on Patreon. And then I've just been iterating on it ever since. And now we have our own website, hotliterati.com, where we still host our online book club, but we also have courses that are geared towards like personal development. And we have events. We've done a lot of events in New York, and we're working on expanding to other cities right now as well. And yeah, I'm also just made an app that's like good, like kind of like Goodreads, but more what I want, like focused reading sessions, writing sessions, because I'm a writer by trade. That's what I studied in school. I did my undergrad in English with certificates in African American Studies, Gender Studies, and screenwriting. But so I also have like a writing portion of the app. I think of it more as like a tool instead of the community where you can really like focus and just like read for 3 hours again, which I feel like so many people have a hard time with in today's world.
Beautiful. Well, walk readers a little bit more through both of those things. So not only the hot literati experience, but also the app and the experience that you feel like. What do you provide and what actions can individuals take in both that online community and the tools as the app provides?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably helpful to give a little more background too, because I worked in tech for a couple years, initially in marketing and then eventually in product, on a product team and like customer service, like client relationships. So I remember reading this book for work about user experience research and user experience design. So I'm like so nosy. Like when someone's on their phone, I'm so curious, like, what are they doing on their phone? Why did they click that button? Like, user experience is really interesting to me, whether it's like an app or I remember talking to this architect once that was talking about how people shape like buildings and rooms with the intention of thinking about how people move throughout them. And I think just as consumers, sometimes we can take for granted like that apps are also built that way, where when they're designing them, they're thinking like, okay, and then like, what are they gonna do? And then what button are they gonna click? And what's like the desired behavior? So the app and the website are completely different. They're separate databases. You need like different accounts to use each one. The website has been around for a while, and as a writer, as an internet girl, as I like to say, I love a blog, and we have been blogging on our website for like years at this point about like nightlife, about dating, about literature, about dining, about travel. So I've recently opened it up where members can contribute as well. And I just like blogging is so it's so casual. Like I remember studying journalism really briefly in high school and thinking like this isn't for me because this is like writing with a dress shirt on and I kind of just want to say like and then I went and did this and then I thought about this book and then I heard this song. So our website is it has a ton of content. It has our blog, but then it also has like courses, and the courses are more like the goal of them is to get you to think more and you to write more. So they take a very interdisciplinary approach and teach you a lot about like philosophy, psychology, neuroscience. Like one I'm working through right now again that I visit a lot is a guided course to build like a 5 year plan for your life, thinking about like how much money you're earning now, how much you want to earn, like the relationships in your life, the relationships you want to nurture, how you want to spend your time. And so the courses are very much to get you like in a book, like think in a journal, thinking about your life, thinking about who you want to be, where you want to go, stuff like that. And then the events section is for our like online and in-person events where you can register. It does use a membership model, so members always get like discounts to events and stuff like that. They are able to contribute to the site. They're able to propose like new events and stuff like that. And then we do have a community section where people can just share. Like we've been doing our online book club for over four around like 4 years at this point. So we have like a book club room on our website. We have a film room, an architecture room. Because I think, like, kind of back to the core of entrepreneurship, one thing that was talked about a lot in Kansas is this idea of like service based leadership, or they always called it like leaders eat last. And it's just this idea that as an entrepreneur, you are trying to serve like your clients, your customers, and it's your responsibility to think like, what do they want? Like, do they like this? Is this good for them? Like, I think there's an ethical component as well. So whenever they like request a room, I'm happy to make it. Or the book club book that we choose is always like nominated and then voted on. It's not just like me saying, I want to read this. Um, the app is a completely different experience because I think as a lot of people, think a lot about how we spend the time that we spend on our phones. And I think there are really interesting differences across generations. And I know we're both members of Gen Z, so we know that like the average member of Gen Z spends a ton of time just like scrolling like TikTok, Instagram, and I've been for all intents and purposes an influencer since I was 17. So I've spent a good chunk of my life also scrolling Instagram and TikTok and watching YouTube. Um, but I kind of like I have gotten to a point in my life where I'm ready to publish a few books. I'm ready to sit down and like read the things that I've always wanted to read, like War and Peace, like Anna Karenina. So I've done a lot of reading around like neuroscience and like feedback loops and stuff like that. So the app is designed to just help you track what you're reading, see what other hot literati app users have thought of that book. And then it literally has like timers on a reading section and a writing section where you can collect all your notes for one book as you're doing like a reading session. You can look up words. You can purchase like reading guides if you're really struggling to get through something. And then the writing session, you can have like different writing projects, word count goals. So I'm working on a novel right now, and my goal is like 70,000 words. So every day I do like a writing session and I log like my word count, and it incentivizes like reading and writing as actual behavioral habits and not just like something like cute or aspirational that you can do, which I feel like is more like book talk, bookstagram culture, which I think is like fine, but the Hot Literati app is like, okay, like sit down and read, sit down and write, and that's what the app really optimizes for.
What feedback have you received from those on the platform? Do they enjoy the behavioral aspect of it?
Yeah, it's actually really funny because my team for this is just me. So yeah, I've like made the website myself, I made the app myself, and I think like speaking from experience, like I feel like a lot of my community members are very similar to me, and that's why we are drawn to this same things. I'm by nature, I think I can like turn it off quite easily, but by nature I'm like quite reserved and a
Mhm.
bit timid, and so I think like bookish people like that, we don't always love to talk a lot. And I feel like we do enjoy just like sitting in a room by ourselves and like reading and writing. So I don't get like super vocal feedback about it. And the app is pretty new, but there's a feature. We do have an explore page, but the only way something gets like put there is if someone starts a new book, finishes a book, or like as you track your progress through a book, you can see if someone's like 25% through, 50% through, or if they finish. So the things that I see from users, the things that we all see are like book reviews, and how often they're like reading. Because there's so many social media platforms where people can just like say whatever. And I didn't want to make like Instagram 2.0. I just like to read and I want to see what other people are reading. So,
And I'm curious because I've always been drawn to tracking, to your point, like tracking the time I'm spent on reading and writing, because I also think it's just like obviously behaviorally it's helpful to kind of know kind of how much time you're spending where. I think especially in the age of like AI and the age of social media where so much of your attention is pulled away from you, it's nice to kind of feel like you're regaining that attention. How does it differ from other like popular apps like a Goodreads, for instance, where it's a similar model in the sense that like you're wanting to track what you're reading, but it does feel a lot more social.
hmm um, I mean, to be completely honest, I don't think I've opened Goodreads in 4 years. Um, and like one of the guided journals on our website, I think it's like how to become yourself. Because it's, I think, a really important thing for all time, like not just in this age, but like a constant human need that a lot of people struggle with is just like the ability to sit alone with your thoughts in a room and think like, who am I? What do I want to do with my life? And um, when I was doing like this journal or this course, I realized a really important thing to me is beauty and like aesthetics. Not in like I think it's because if I had to like analyze myself, I did classical ballet for a really long time. I love art. I like things to be pretty. And when there are studies about how when something is beautiful, it can be like more soothing to you. It makes you want to like create more beauty in the world. Whereas environments and things that are just like cold and lifeless or um, like jarring can kind of disorganize like your thoughts and the way in which you do things. So, um, I think it's just prettier than Goodreads. And it's I would say, granted, I haven't used it in like 4 years, but it's a little more interactive. Like when you
Mhm.
start reading a book, you put in the page count. So each time you log a session, you can see like I'm 17% through this book. I'm like 20% through this book. And one of my favorite use cases is like I love a library book, or if I'm ever in a sublet or an Airbnb, like if I'm allowed to, I read their books and it's you can't like take it with you if it's not yours. So it's also like having this like if I went and found the same book at a
Mhm.
library or a bookstore, I would know what page I was on. I would have all my annotations still. So it's much more of an active partner for reading than my memory of what Goodreads is.
Yeah. And I love how you frame that. Like it's an active partner, which I think is like how apps should exist, right? It should be like a tool to aid you in whatever you want to be doing rather than something like a Instagram per se, which sometimes I think can shape your experience rather than you fully shaping what you want to get done. But I have two more
Yeah.
questions for you. One of them is, Hot Literati and this app, they exist because social media, but ultimately, I think Hot Literati, it encourages you to put your phone down and to read or to meet in person or to do a course. So how do you kind of deal with that tension?
Yeah, I mean, I think I do like still work. So there's like that. I do still work in social media and in a lot of social media related spaces. Like I still do brand deals. I still have my like super engaged followers on different platforms. And I think two things, like I'm not as jaded about it, I think, sometimes as other people, because we talked about this on that panel briefly, like growing up in the Midwest, where the culture isn't as accessible, like a cultural life, especially if you're a young person, because of the urban planning. Like you need a car to get everywhere, so it's harder to like walk to a museum or um, just like have this curiosity that you can fulfill as well. So for me, I feel like that was the internet in a lot of ways. Like I think I saw my first Vladimir Nabokov quote on Tumblr as a teenager, and I was able to follow like ballerinas who, documented their life as professional dancers that helped me sort of think like, what can I do with my life and where do I want to live and stuff like that. So I think that question of like the internet connecting everyone in the world, it is really important. And having like a slightly technical background as well, I think makes me less jaded because, the one of the earliest consumer examples of the internet being like navigable by the average person is what like the Google search rank algorithm, but you still have to sit down and think like, what do I want to see? So I think like I always go back to this idea of like Mark Zuckerberg like alone in his dorm room just like aggregating like profiles and people, and just because he's like the first one to do this in such a big navigable way. um I think it's like it was disruptive. And I think this is like economic theory a little bit, but you just have like different disruptors who make things that are more attuned to what people need, that respond to like the issues that have been broken by the other platforms. And so, like Meta, for example, exists, I'm sure you already know this, like on an advertising business model. They make money because businesses and um, businesses like pay to have their product shown to users. So, as a business, what they optimize for is people to be on the platform for as long as possible, and that's just their business model. So, I think that's really shaped like as I've thought more about myself as like a consumer and a creator and an entrepreneur, it's really shaped like what I've built and what I make, because I then ask like what do I want to optimize for? What is the feeling I want to leave people with? So like Hot Literati's app optimizes for people reading and writing more, and I don't want them to like doom scroll on that platform. I want them to read and write more. And our website optimizes for community participation and self-reflection, and I don't want it to do like too much beyond that, because the business model is not like spend as much time as you can on this. um, and then for myself as a creator, I think a lot about representation, like growing up in a lot of environments where I didn't see a lot of people that looked like me. Like I do recognize the value of sharing, like, and I'll walk around New York and sometimes I'll see a girl that looks a lot like me who's like, I follow you on Instagram. And I think that makes me less jaded because I'm able to be like a good role model, or to share aspects of my life and to show them like what they can do with their life.
Mhm. Absolutely. And so my last question, which is kind of two parts. One, talking about, moving forward and having actionable next steps. What is one suggestion you'd give a young person about finding community in the online world? And then I have to ask you, the second part of that is, what is one book suggestion you would give for someone wanting a good read this summer? You said Anna Karenina. I love Anna Karenina. I would never recommend that to someone unless they want to spend a while on it. But what's one good read that you have been enjoying recently?
Yeah, I think finding online community, join Hot Literati. I think people are, because there's so much free content on the internet, and like, free like group chats you can join and Discord servers and stuff like this. I feel like people are almost like put off by, we do operate on a monthly membership. And I think people, because they're so used to like free online, are like, but you get like, usually if something's, what is the saying, like if it's free then something else is the product, and if it's free then like your data and your time is the product. So I think our community is really special, and the fact that people pay to participate shows kind of like the level of intention that everyone brings to the space, because everyone is so like positive and intellectually curious and really encouraging. So I love our community. I think it's like really wonderful. And anytime I get on a call, I go to an event, I always am left with like a really good feeling. Um, in terms of book recommendations, gosh, I mean, one thing I'm reading right now, my dad got it for me at this bookstore in Wichita called Left Unread. It's called Go Higher. It's the rapper Big Sean's book on like goal setting and journaling and mental health. And when I started reading it, I was like, I was really grumpy that day. And I swear every time I read it, I felt like so good. It's very like soothing, very inspiring. So I think it could be a great read for anyone.
Beautiful. And so where can people find Hot Literati and where can they find the app too?
Yeah, so the app is in the App Store, just Hot Literati. I think it's on the Google Play Store as well for Android users. And as far as our community events, everything like that, it's all on our website, which is hotliterati.com.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Haley, for coming on and sharing your story and your insights and telling us more about everything you've built with us today. As always, we look forward to being and continuing the conversation with the SMC community, and we'll speak again with you all next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma.